Okay, here we are.
Kent and Renee Miller, and we're continuing on.
The Augmentation of Man, a Study in Renaissance.
And for those of you who are just tuning in to us, The Augmentation of Man, a Study in Renaissance is a book that we had published with the lessons that we have been given from the spirit realm while Kent is in deep meditation.
So now we're going to study chapter 5, pages 108 through 111, if you have the book, starting with a clean slate between perception and truth. Who are you listening to?
And so we are entering into a new cycle of conceptual learning and conceptual understanding. So what does that mean? That means we're going up a notch in our growth, our spiritual growth. And it means, conceptual means to be able to connect the dots between many different things to see it in a broader picture. So we're being called to evaluate who we're listening to and what kind of information are we getting from them.
Getting the difference between truth and perception of truth. You have to learn how to decipher. So don't take everything as you hear it. Sit back, look at it, research it, and decide which is truth and which is a perception of truth. So humanity is called to get rid itself of misperceptions, and humanity is called to search for a higher truth.
Right, and so we're going to go into that in more detail as far as what are we seeing versus what we are telling ourselves that we're seeing.
What we think we see.
Right.
And then that's a perception. What we think we see is a perception of what we see. So, again, discernment of not only what you hear, but also what you see.
And so our mentors, the ancients, who are ancient teachers of the Creator, are telling us that even our perception of the universal consciousness that exists is not correct. And so what exists out in the universe is this vast trove of knowledge and understanding. And there are a lot of entities that are willing to pair up with us in a teacher-student relationship in order to teach us. And we have to come to realize that we can find our own answers by going within and listening to that inner voice.
Yeah, there are many teachers, but the universe wants us to learn correctly. They want us to understand the truth of now. Okay, there are many out there in this world that call themselves psychics, channelers, all different titles. And you have to discern if you are getting absolute truth from these. There are many that are truthful, that do get higher intelligence, but there are many that are not. So,
and we have to evaluate too where we're at. What is it that we're searching for? So let me adjust this a little bit because it's kind of low. There we go. So what is it that we're searching for? Are we searching for something that is entertainment value, something that gets our adrenaline going?
Cause and effect.
Or is it something that's going to create cause and effect? So cause and effect in these definitions.
Okay, cause is what?
Is always about the teaching. So it's more about the teacher has the cause of delivering an understanding to a willing student.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a greater understanding.
Is the actual understanding gained
from
what you hear.
So that is when cause and effect is used in these terms, this is what they're talking about. Okay. So there is nothing that is expected from the teachers as far as something gained, something in return, some sort of repayment. The way the universe works is that information is given freely to those who are searching without an expectation of anything in return other than our desire to learn and process the information that has been given.
Yeah, the true channelers do not expect something for their listening and putting out the truth. They do not say, okay, what do you give me if I listen to you? That is not a true channeler, period.
So, here we go again. Sorry, our tripod needs to be replaced. When you're searching for somebody, I'd be very aware of charlatans, those who are posing to know more than they actually do, and that can be evaluated by their what kind of information they're sharing. If they're using a lot of what I call catchphrases, where they're talking about love and light and crystals and the star energy and things like that, quite honestly, we don't get a lot of that. It's a lot of fluffy words, and I am quite hesitant when I hear or read about channelings that use these kind of fluffy terms.
Yeah, remember, there are many manipulators and deceivers that might love to manipulate the human race to their own cause.
And it could be that the channeler is receiving this information, but who is it that they're receiving it from? So
it could be a lower source.
It could be a lower source. So how does that work? First, it has to do with the level of understanding of the person who is receiving the communication, and they will only be given information that they are able to understand.
Yeah, you're looking at profiteers, you're looking at those that want to be in the spotlight and their ego takes over. Those charge money. It's like going to a psychic and they charge you $20 to give you a reading, and they don't get nothing, so they have to make up something to earn that $20.
Everybody is at where they're at, and it's it's kind of like homeschooling. It is guided by our own drive and our own ambition and how fast we want to accomplish those goals. And so, and that is fine, but the reality is that we're going into a new cycle, and it's a step up. And so you have free will, but this next cycle is going to require that we are devoting much more time and effort to our spiritual growth.
Now, we have to look inside ourselves and ask, why do we gravitate to certain outlets of information? Why do we go to this particular website or that particular website?
Or are we listening to certain people who are receiving information? And
why are they, according, you have to ask yourself, are they giving information that I can understand or not understand? Is it truth or non-truth? Do we trust those people we're getting information from? Even us, you have to even research our information. Okay?
Absolutely.
You have to research everything you get to understand if it's true understanding or if it's misunderstanding.
And the way that the universe works, as we have learned, is that it's all about shedding a higher level of understanding. So if somebody is giving you information that is not accomplishing that goal of a greater, more profound understanding, then I would move on.
Yeah, you got to learn how to connect the dots. That's what it's all about. Collection of facts, learning how to connect the dots, and then if it gives you a feeling of calmness, then you might be on the right track.
Yeah, because usually when you have that level of understanding, you get it, and it produces this calmness within. So usually when somebody doesn't understand something, you see this very erratic, upset behavior. And as you give them the facts and you give them the understanding, you see that their level of anxiety starts to come down, and they start to settle in and become calm.
Begin to understand the cause and event. So everything is attached. Even though you think it might not be, everything is attached. So when an event happens, the mass consciousness controls that event. Now, what do we mean by that? It controls the value of that event.
The value of the understanding of that event. So within the universe, there are structures called the angulation of proclamation. And angulation, we've talked about in the past how when we're learning, the angular learning is being able to look at everything from all angles. So what I see from this angle is going to be different from what I see at that angle. And we're supposed to look at an event that happens from all angles. So that's called angular learning. The proclamation of angulation is a structure in the plasmic atmosphere around the Earth, around these learning spheres. And so it has this, the structure itself has angles in which it protrudes out into the atmosphere, and it's measuring movement and energy. And that energy relates to our response to an event and how well we understand it. And so if we haven't quite grasped the level of understanding of an event that we need to, it sets forth a vibrational force that sets the parameters for another event to follow, that is going to nudge us along in our progression of understanding of that event. And so in essence, within the universe, there is a vibrational force that keeps nudging us toward greater and greater levels of understanding.
It's a universal law.
Yes, and that is the universal law. So all of creation is about greater and greater levels of consciousness, and it is pretty much, I would say, the only thing that's really required due to universal law, how the Creator God has set up the universes. It's all about the learning.
Yeah. And the difference, we want to do a correctness or correction. Cylindrical, not cylindrical, and the spelling is SALIERNDRICAL, cylindrical, which means a leap or leaping forward, not cylindrical like in round.
Yes, so in the book on page 109, it's when Kent is channeling this information, we're getting a lot of new words and new terminology. Most of that falls within the parameters of Greek and Latin root words. And so it's our job to take what we hear and try to spell it out, and then try to find the root word where we can superimpose it back into the sentence and it makes sense. And so on several occasions, we kept receiving this term cylindrical event, and I was interpreting it as a cylinder. It didn't make sense to me, but we ran out of time and couldn't get an answer at that time as to what that word pertained to. However, we've recently discovered that there is a, I can't remember if it's Greek or Latin root, but salien, S-A-L-I-E-N, means leaping. And so when we put that back into this sentence on page 109, it made perfect sense, because it means our leaping forward in our level of understanding.
So to find truth, in order to even begin to find truth, you have to let go of your ego, because that controls everything that you do. And once you let it go, you're going to be finding a new self. And
part of the ego, the way that the ego was established is a way of preserving ourselves. However, we've kind of taken it to the nth degree, and it's being misused at this point. So we have to let go of that ego now and start just searching for truth. Now, that truth also, sometimes is hard to come by. And so we can get frustrated. And especially reading this book, it's not exactly an easy read, as anybody who has the book knows. And so, and this is the purpose of the videos and the blog, is to help you guys out with this.
To get through this, yeah.
And so, but that being said, is that when we do get frustrated, we can ask for spiritual guidance in the understanding. So our understanding also comes from a being from the other side of the veil who can help us in that understanding in the form of feeding us thoughts. We can't easily decipher between what thoughts are being given to us and what is our own thought. But I would have to say that to recognize it probably comes in the form of an epiphany, where you had a lot of difficulty understanding certain concept, and then all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and you understand it. Most likely that is a thought that has been transferred to you telepathically in order to help you in your understanding.
We have to begin to understand our own environmental background, our biases, our perceptions that influence a pre-event. Once we begin to understand and get rid of the ego, you're going to find a calmness about yourself that you didn't know you had. And the people around you will recognize this calmness.
Right. And so turning inward and analyzing what it is that makes us tick, what the environmental background is how we were raised, how we've been taught, what we've been exposed to, that have formed our belief systems today, and then also our biases. And we have to understand that those exist to really be able to see the truth. So it involves turning inward and doing some self-evaluation, and then also trying to figure out where not only our ego is at and how it affects the way that we see things and what we're willing to accept, but also those that we're listening to and where their ego fits in to the bigger picture as well.
And the thing is, there's a universal force that is moving humanity towards a greater level of understanding. But we have to let it go, the ego, in order to gain the access to this understanding.
So it requires an open mind to gain new levels of understanding. But it also requires discernment. It requires that we look at the entire picture, and that would include the environmental, our own, each one of us, our environmental backgrounds, how we've been taught, and what we've been exposed to.
And it's
our
not
ego.
Easy looking at that, because it's going to bring up old things that you haven't thought about in years, that you've been keeping inside you. Once you let those things go, which are no longer relevant, once you let it go, you're going to feel a calmness start to creep within you, a calmness that you didn't know you had. And with that, we would like to thank you for being with us today, and we hope you begin to understand more as each event unfolds within your life, and you begin to understand why it unfolded and what your part in this huge play called humanity is.
So we encourage you to visit our website, verdiance.com, and that's with a V. And at the bottom, we've got the latest blogs, but you can access the older blogs as well. The earliest, or let me put it this way, the oldest blogs start at the beginning of the book, And so we are progressing slowly with each chapter, and the blog goes into much more detail than these YouTubes. So we encourage you to visit that, and we've got a Twitter and Facebook, so you can join us there as well.
Anyway, thanks for being with us. We hope to be with you again in approximately a week. But with that in mind, have a great week and a higher understanding of why we're here.
And peace be with you on your journey to finding the truth. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.